Hi everyone, it's Monica here from Living Horses. So for some reason the video that I did have up on how to make your own horsehair bracelet, to make your own horsehair necklace with my DIY kit seems to have had an issue with it, so I'm just quickly making up another one for the time being until I can get a proper one done. So if you've purchased one of my DIY kits, you will have received a little kit which will have your super glue, your thread, measuring tape. You will have your instructions, which will also have your bits and pieces to make your necklace. So for your braided necklace, what you will need is you will need to get yourself your horsehair. It will need to be fairly long because you're going to want to make it in one piece if possible and have it go all around your neck. So ideally, as far as length goes, what you will need to do is you will need to get your measure tape and measure or use a bit of string to go around your neck and make it to a length that you're happy for your necklace to be. And then your horsehair will need to be about 20 centimetres longer than that. To start off your braid, make sure that you have enough thickness of horsehair. So when you take your horsehair and you give it a twist together like this, ideally what you want to do, twist it together, and you want to make sure that when it's twisted together that it's going to be not so thick that it won't fit inside the hole that you're going to put your braid into, but not so thin. Well, it doesn't really matter if it's a bit thinner, but you certainly don't want it to be too thick when you then tie it off and stick it inside your cord end for your necklace. So as an example, this is a braid that I did before. Once it's finished and cut off, that is the end of your braid there, and you will want it to still be able to fit inside. So when you glue it, it's going to fit in. I'm not sure I can zoom in, but there we go. So even though it was a little bit thinner when I twisted it, once you braid it, it will actually gain a bit of thickness. Okay. So to start off your braid, what you want to do is once you've got your horsehair together like that, just grab all your ends together, grab your thread, and I should have had this prepared a bit earlier, but I haven't. So take your thread and just wrap it around quite a few times and then tie a knot into it. To hold it nice and tight. There we go, like that. And then once you've tied it off, just double check again that when you hold it up to your cord end, it is thinner than the hole, so in that case you can see it is smaller. And take your thread, grab your glue and pop a nice bit of glue onto the thread, and then just put some up beyond onto the cut ends there to go all around, and then tie the excess thread onto the glue bit that's still there, and you can let that dry. Give it a minute or so and it will dry off. Now, as I said, because my other video was kind of not working for some reason, I'm just going to use the pieces I have here. So that's an example of where it has been tied off. What you can do now is, I'll actually pop up on here. So where you've tied it off, what you can do is you can put it down on a bench and use a bit of tape across it to hold it. Or in my case, I've got a bullnose clip that I use, and I clip it onto a bench or something before I start braiding. Now you can use any kind of braid style that you want, really. You can do a 3-strand flat braid, you can do a 4-strand round braid, which is what I generally tend to use. But yeah, you can use whatever style that you want to use. I'll put a link under this video to some braiding tutorials, so if you want to do something a little bit fancier, you can. But for the 4-strand braid, what I usually do is you will separate your hair into 4 equal parts. And I won't go through the steps on this. As I said, I'll put a link underneath this video so you can find the braids and the instructions on how to do it. But yeah, what you would do is you start your braid up the top, try and keep your braid nice and tight together, and just work your way along and keep going as long as you possibly can with the braid that you have got. And continue on down. Once you've done your braid and you get to the end of your braid, to the very end, what I like to do is I grab a bit of the super glue again, and I'll just dab it onto the end of the braid before I can get the thread, so that it doesn't unravel on you before you've had time to tie it off. So back to your braid. So you finished your braid off, you've got it tied off at the beginning and you've got it tied off at the end. What you want to do now is, if you've got a knife, you can carefully, if you've got a cutting board, just go to the end of where you've got your braid and cut through. If you've got scissors and you're using scissors, you can just do carefully cut the end off it with a pair of sharp scissors. If you've got side cutters, you can actually possibly do side cutters as well. Once you've cut that off, again I'll grab the glue and I will put a few drops just onto the end, just to help hold it again so it doesn't get unravelled. Take your tape measure now, lay your braid, I'll move a few things out of the way, lay your braid out that you've done. So you've got your cut end, put your measuring tape and measure how long your braid is, and that measurement that you took at the beginning, what you want to do is cut your braid. Sorry, I'm having a little mental blank what I was doing. Put your tape down, measure the length of the braid, go to the end of the braid that you've done, and once you've measured that off, tie your thread on again. Dab a bit of super glue onto it before you cut, and repeat as you did on the other at the start of it. So then you've got your braid, which is ready for your necklace. You have got your ends that you're going to super glue them into. So it's fairly straightforward at this point. Grab your super glue again and pop a bit of glue onto the end of your braid. If you find that your braid is too thin and it's sliding in and out really easily, you can wrap a bit more thread around the end to thicken it up. But if it fits in right, just pop your super glue onto that. With your cord end, just run a bit of super glue around the inside edge of that cap, and even put a few drops inside. Pop another big drop onto the end of your braid, and then carefully push it in, pop it in, and give it a few minutes to set. and dry, and then do the same thing again on the other end. So put your glue onto the tip of the braid, your glue around the thread, grab your end, run a bit of glue on the inside edge, let it run in, and then pop that in to glue it. Give that a little chance to dry. And then lastly what you've got is just your little charms to put on. So you can put on whatever charms you want. With these ones it's fairly straightforward. You can use your fingers, or if you've got little mini pliers like I do, you can use them. Just take your ring, pry it open like so, thread your little charms on, doesn't always go according to plan. Sometimes I've got to fiddle around. Oops. And just pry it back closed. There we go. And that is it. And pop it on around your neck once it's fully dried, and hook it onto that. There you go, and your necklace is done. And you can still adjust it, you can still clip onto this chain here if it's a little bit shorter than you thought, but that's pretty straightforward and how you go through. Now if you've got shorter lengths of hair, what you can do is, and I will add them in the additional kits after this, is I will have another little bead. So what you can do with that is to join the two, you get your little bead, put your glue onto the end of the braid, and then push the braid halfway into the bead, let that dry. Once that is dry, get your next length of braid. So if you can picture, that's inside a tube bead at the moment. Once that's dry, you get your other braid, do the same thing, put a bit of super glue on, a bit of super glue into the bead, and then push that into the bead. So you will effectively have shorter lengths of braid joined together, and you will have a bead joining it together. I suppose the other thing with that style of necklace is you can also do that with multiple tails. So instead of having one length of one horse's tail, you might have one section, say this long, from one horse. You have your joining bead there, your next section of another horse, your little joiner bead there, another section of a different horse, joiner bead, and your last section of horse there. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed it, and again I do apologise about this video that I haven't got the proper one up, but for the time being, until I can find out what happened with the other one or get a new one made, I hope this helps you make your necklace. Thank you.